Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Also consider joining my Patreon page for some cool perks. I'll leave a link in the description. Ow! Hot off the press, I have in my hands the latest and potentially the greatest August 2023 installment of Guitar World magazine. I could ramble on about the whole thing, yet one aspect that I encountered attracted my attention right away. It was an enticing interview with the wonderful Wishbone Ash guitarist Andy Powell. Andy answered some burning questions from a Guitar World staff member named Joe Matera. Why don't we find out how the interview went? What was the first guitar you ever had? It was a borrowed Hofner Colorama when I was about 12. There was a fad in the 60s for guitars to be covered in a kind of vinyl material that we called Fablin, which this guitar had in red. But the first guitar I bought with my own money was an acoustic for £3. I used to make my own guitars too, as I couldn't afford them. When I was 15, I made a sort of Strat, which was pretty good, and I used that in the bands I was playing in at the time. What was your first gig? I was around 12. We used to have something called Saturday Morning Pictures in the UK at a cinema that was in the town I lived in at the time. Movies were big back then, so I was playing a matinee show between movies like Bambi or some other Disney thing. I got on stage with my friends and we stood on what was really a shelf because the screen was behind us. We had about 6 feet to stand on and to put our little amps on. We performed for kids because it was in the summer holidays and I was absolutely crapping myself, but it was my first taste of performing. Ever had an embarrassing moment on stage? We weren't adverse to being a bit high on stage sometimes. I remember this one time in Zurich when I walked out in front of the monitor speakers to take a solo, and as I stepped back and leaned back, the monitor wedge was right behind me, and it got right behind my knees, and I went flat on my back. But I continued playing, so I kind of made it part of the show. The building is burning down. What one guitar from your collection do you save? This happened to me. We were not in a building though. We were in a van, and I was with my fiancée, who's now my wife. It was before Wishbone, in a band called the Sugar Band, one of the soul bands I was in. We were coming back from a gig and the van caught fire, so I rescued the guitar I had, which was my homemade guitar, before I went back to help her out of the van. She never lets me forget it. But if I were in a burning building, it would be my '67 Gibson Flying V. What's the last time you practiced and what did you play? I've been touring so much as of late that I'm practicing every night, as on stage we do a lot of jamming. The last time I practiced was when I watched some videos by a lady called Mary Flower, a ragtime guitar player. I was learning one of her tunes. When I'm off the road, I have this love affair with ragtime guitar, old style. I'm a lead guitar player in a rock band, but in my downtime, I like to get out of my zone by trying to figure out ragtime pieces. What aspect of the guitar would you like to be better at? Picking. I just love the complete way of playing the guitar. I mean, lead guitar is fabulous and great fun, and you get your rocks off, and I don't ever tire of it. But I like that whole picking thing, but I am only a dabbler at it, as I'm not doing it every night. I would love to be more of a consummate guitar player in that way. Last question. What's your favorite piece of gear? My 1959 Fender Bassman. I've always used tweed type Fenders for recording, so in terms of gear, that would be it, as it is a juicy, lovely amp. Well, that concludes the interview with the guitarist for Wishbone Ash, Andy Powell. What did you think? Let me know in the comments. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my supporters on Patreon, Matt and Stacy from Canada. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Till then, rock on.